The next presenter is ready to go. So let me just quickly introduce her to you. Our next presenter is Marie. Marie is a strategic interventions and policy advisor at the Joint United Nations Program on HIV, UNAIDS. She coordinates the UN efforts to ensure a comprehensive and coordinated HIV prevention and treatment program. So I invite Marie for a quick talk with you, and make sure you do ask your questions. Thank you, Marie.
All right. I'm very pleased to be here. I've been asked to share a few lessons from my experience working for the United Nations for a bit more than 15 years. Maybe first I'll start with asking a volunteer to say, what is the United Nations? Somebody knows? There's no wrong answer.
Oh yeah, United Nations is an international organization which is based all over the continent in the planet, and they focus on like bringing peace. Their main motto was to bring peace all over the world before the war WW2 was ended, and they're now helping on people who are suffering from refugees, natural disasters like HIV, like you're now working on, like preventing. And like I know someone who works from UNFPA. Her name is Miss Hasina, but she also helping to promote women empowerment in Dodoma.
Okay, thank you. I chose the right person. You're really spot on. Yeah, the United Nations is an international intergovernmental organization that was created after World War II in 1945. And it works on humanitarian assistance, human rights, sustainable development, and peace and security. Why the United Nations? I would say I've always known within me. I don't know if it's the mojo or something else, that I wanted to work in international development. I can't say 100% for sure why. I would say probably 3 reasons. The first one is the chance that I had to be, as a child, exposed to other languages, other cultures, other continents. And then secondly, really also the strong feeling that I've had probably through my parents' education, that I was a privileged child. I had good health, I had quality education, I had lots of love, and out there it was not the case for everyone, and there are a lot of inequities within our own country. My home country is France, but also between countries, and I felt that I had to do something and give back and contribute to addressing some of these inequities. And then thirdly, I've always been convinced that you have to love your job and it's not a paycheck. So those were really I think the 3 main reasons I decided to work in international development. Then knowing that, I looked at the types of studies that would lead me there. There were really many roads, not just one road. I could have studied public health or specific logistics or social science. I decided to study what I liked, and so in France there is a curriculum which it's a selective curriculum on business administration, international management. So I decided to study that, law, diplomacy, and public policy. I picked up what I consider was the best school for that. So that's one advice, is whenever you've chosen your subject, it's really, whenever possible, is to look at what are the university that have regional or national or global reference on these particular topics. Then when I graduated from that school, I went and knocked on doors of NGOs, national non-governmental organization in my own country. And then I was told, we don't have resources, we don't have time to hire young people like you who are just fresh out of school. You need to go to the private sector and gain some experience there and then come back to us in a couple of years. I heard that throughout, so I said, okay, let me do that. It was the time of the internet boom in my country. There were a lot of startup emerging, and I decided, okay, let me try that, because then I'm not going to make a career in a private sector. We have many international corporations like L'Oréal, etc. But it was really not my thing. So I thought, at least in a startup, because it's a small group, it's the beginning, you're going to get exposed to a lot of functions, like business, investors relationship, marketing, human resources, etc. And it proved to be true, and I'm very happy I made that choice. So I joined a startup for about 3 years, and got exposed to many very different functions. And for a first work experience, it was really good. So one of one first message I would like to convey to you is really I believe the first work experience is extremely important. Extremely important. It really kind of shape a bit. I'm not saying it's like after that, if you fail your first experience, oh, your life is set in stone. No, but I do want to insist on the first work experience that is going to set you on a particular path. At least that's what I felt happened to me. Then after 3 years, there was a job opening at the French National Committee for UNICEF, the United Nations Organization for Children. And it was to oversee the resource mobilization from the private sector. So I applied and got the job. And there I managed a partnership with the diaper brand Pampers. Some of you may be familiar, some of the parents. And it was a cause-related marketing project whereby for each pack you buy, there would be so many cents going to UNICEF humanization program. And it was really a big success for UNICEF and for the company, a win-win, as we say, because they increased their sale, and for us we got several $1 million for our programs. So I was asked by UNICEF colleagues to go to the headquarters and implement that partnership throughout the world. So that's how then I moved to UNICEF headquarters. Then there was a restructuring. Nothing was happening. Everything was on pause, on hold. Decisions couldn't be made because we were rethinking our objectives, rethinking our structure. At that time, I had just had my first son, and I was already pregnant with my second one. And I felt, I'm away from this little child. I'm at work, and this better be for a good reason. So I decided, and I wasn't seeing the good reasons anymore. So I decided to look for other job opportunities, and at the same time I was interested in working more in the programs of the United Nations, not just mobilizing resources, but also in the implementation of the programs. And there I realized that there was a link between, since I was working in private sector corporation partnership, HIV, I realized, was something that was really affecting the DNA of specific industries and companies. Like if you take the mining industries in certain African countries, they were losing their employees from HIV, or there's a lot of absenteeism or many issues around that. And I realized that as companies, they can really, if they develop HIV workplace programs, they can really make a difference, sensitize their employee, get them tested, get them to treatment, etc. So there was really a link between, I was able to make a link between my experience in companies and then programmatic work. So I joined the UN program on HIV, UNAIDS, where I'm still at the moment. Then in that, so the second lesson, the second lesson is that you have to like, it's what other speakers have said, you really have to like what you do and look for challenges all the time. Then I moved in other functions in the organization. I was heading the office of the Deputy Executive Director. So I was looking at issues of governance, i.e. relationship with our board members, of human resources, administration, finance, innovation, technology. It was very broad. But it was so much work, so much pressure. It was really a tough time for my family. I really, I can say at that moment, my work-life balance was a bit miserable. And that's also something I remember when I was a child. I was hearing other people say, "Oh, you make sure you find the right job where you can have, especially as a woman, you can have the right work-life balance." And I always thought, "Oh, of course I'll sort it out, no worry." But then it's not that easy, and we should always reflect on that before it's too late. So that's my message. The work-life balance, it's not something abstract. It's really something you have to keep in mind when in your career. Then in that function, I had a chance to be given a project which was called the Gender Action Plan. We realized that HIV is particularly affecting young women, girls. So we have many programs where we work around women's empowerment and gender equality. But then as an organization, do we walk the talk, right? Do we have a structure that is aligned with our programmatic strategy? And then we realized, no, we didn't have, if you look at our senior management, it was really a male-dominated environment. So we had to do some special program. And we know and we realize that, there is a lot of research out there that shows that organizations which have gender-balanced teams are corporations, organizations, whatever, who have gender-balanced teams, they really outperform their peers who haven't. And there's a lot more creativity in gender-balanced teams. I managed a mentor-mentee programs for women staff. So the mentees were all women. The mentor could be men or women, the mentor would work on a pro bono basis to help develop the competencies, the skills of the mentees, help them address specific work challenges. And the feedback we have received from our first pilot mentoring program, now it's been going on for 4 years, was really amazing. So we are continuing that. And then I also established a network of women in our headquarters, where we would meet on a regular basis. We share insight, experience, personal stories, or even work challenges. And it also has been, for me personally, a tremendous support. And that's my fourth lesson here, is that you really have to invest in building relationships and in networking throughout your career. So now I'm here in Tanzania. I moved here. We have a mobility policy in the United Nations, depending a bit on the programs, but at least in UNAIDS, where we, after a number of years in a particular duty station, we are moving to another one. So I decided had been in different headquarters for many years, and I decided that it was high time for me to be in the field. So I did what's called a 360 review exercise, where you ask your peers, the people that work under you at the same level and above you for feedback. And it was really enlightening. And then I really realized I wanted to work in community mobilization work. So realized I didn't have, I was missing some knowledge, some particular expertise. So I enrolled myself into a 2 weeks long program on human rights and civil society engagement. And then I moved here, and I was able to get that position and moved here. So this is my fifth lesson. It's vocational training, continuous education throughout your career. We never stop learning, and it's really important to invest in continuous learning. So I'm going to conclude, hopefully with some questions. I hope we can make it as interactive as possible. To me, especially now that we have an even more interconnected world, is the importance of multidisciplinary skills, having all these different skills. I mean, like the ability to communicate with impact, the ability to drive change, innovation, or the ability to empower others, develop others, the ability to manage performance resources, etc. So these are what I call the multidisciplinary skills. And so as we've seen from your really fascinating experience, I loved your bubbles. This is really the type of career, not like a straight line that that your future generations you're going to have most probably. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Marie. Any questions for Marie?
It's obvious that in today's world that ladies are being looked down on, and when a lady goes to apply for a job, of course there are going to be the lady candidates and the male ones. So what guarantee is there that the lady candidates will receive the job and not the men? Because when selecting a job, some bosses may be unfair and look at gender rather than skills, and how can we be certain about that?
I think we have more and more role models, you know, like women that are out there. Some even you can see in they are heading countries or they are heading corporations. So we are going. We haven't broken the glass ceiling yet, but I think we're in a better position even than the former generations. But this can also be a criteria for you. You know, when you look for if you're looking for a job in a corporation, this can be one of the selection criteria for you. You know, you're not because corporations they have to communicate, you know, on the number of women that have senior management positions, etc. So you can, if you Google and look at, you can find the ones that are in a better position, and you may want to go for these ones as a priority. It's true. It depends on who is recruiting you. Hopefully, these people have been sensitized on the value added of gender balance teams, etc. But it's true. It's a reality out there that there are all sorts of discrimination, not only gender, but all sorts of discriminations, right? In recruitment, but also during in the workplace. Yeah.